we've got another international connection from Australia all the way to Ireland, or vice versa, Ireland to Australia. And I want to welcome the guest on uh, for this video. I've got Mark. Hey, Mark, how's it going, man?
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for having me on. Pleasure to meet you.
It is such a pleasure to meet you, and thank you so much for reaching out and just being connected. I love your Instagram posts, your little walks, your little talks in front of the camera. I think that's what really captured me when I was following you on Instagram. And you stir a little bit of a of a pot there with some of the things that you post. But hey, if you're in this game, if you're in social media posting things about eating meat only and talking about calories being nonsense, you're gonna get a little bit of a
Yeah.
a backlash
Yeah.
from others.
So much hate on social media at the moment. So much.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Well, hey, a couple of things, but we that I wanted to touch on today. But let's start with your story a little bit. What's got you to where you are, where you're obviously doing the carnivore diet as we've talked about earlier, but what led you to this point in time?
Okay, so this started with me a long time ago. So I'm in my late 40s at the moment, and this all started when I was very, very young. Where I always had this up and down relationship with food. I was always fearful of food. And when I was younger, I was really obese. I was one of those kids that everybody would have looked at me and said, yeah, he's fat. And it took a massive, massive toll on my life. Massive, massive toll. I would have been one of those people that if we were picked on a sports team, I would have been picked last. Girls wouldn't look at me. It just knocked my confidence, completely knocked my confidence. And I just said to myself, listen, I need to do something about this. Like, I can't live like this for the rest of my life. So I used to get really, really depressed when I was really, really young. And no child should go through like that. This all started when I was around 12 years of age. But anyways, I looked into fitness. So I just looked into sports, just running, doing body weight exercises at home. Because I wanted to get fit. I was at that time. I was looking at all the magazines, and all I could see was all the six packs, and I was learning about nutrition. And back then, I thought that the best way to get in shape was pretty much restrict myself, just starve myself, and just train. So I did that for I did that for a good while. I used to run every morning. I used to get up before school, do an hour run. And what was happening as the months went on, my food kept on going down and down and down. And I didn't realize that I was actually damaging myself along the way, to the point where I was focusing too much on weight. So every time I stood on the scales, I was like, okay, I need to lose another 2 pounds this week. Next week, I need to lose another 2 pounds. I used to look at myself in the mirror and say, okay, there's a little bit of fat there. I need to take it off. And it was literally taking over my life. And then eventually I got to a stage where I was anorexic. So I was around 16 years of age. I'm not too sure what you guys know in pounds, but I was around 4.5 stone. So I think that's just under 50 pounds. So I was carrying no weight whatsoever. And my energy was gone. I was only eating a small amount of food, like a tiny amount of food. And the quality of that food was shit, basically. So when it got to those dark moments, I was only eating pretty much a Mars bar a day, and it would have took me about an hour to eat that Mars bar.
Wow.
So I used to nibble around the bar. The bar used to be about that size, and I used to nibble around it because that would be the only food I would have. And I can't remember back then how many calories were in there. I think it was around 250 calories, and that's pretty much all I was having.
Something like that, yeah.
And every day I was doing a run. And then when I got to 16 years of age, I eventually joined the gym. So I was in the gym and I was doing weight training. I was doing more cardio. I was swimming. I was going into sauna for like 30 minutes. So I'd say about 4 or 5 hours of my time every single day was either exercising or going into the gym. At this stage, my exams were on. So my junior cert were in this year. it had no toll on me whatsoever. I completely ignored my exams. The only thing I was focusing on was just getting skinny. That's all I cared about. It took over my mind where I didn't realize it. And every time I looked at food, I was always scared. I was like, no, I can't eat that. So then
Mm.
fast forward then about 6 months after this is when I was around 16. This is around 6 months after that. And I remember we went on a family vacation. And I remember we used to have those TVs up on the wall where we didn't have any remote controls back
Mm.
then. And I remember reaching up to the TV just to switch the button and switch the channels.
Mm.
And I was told that I fainted. I fell on the ground. Don't remember a thing. Don't remember a thing. But apparently my energy was so low I couldn't even walk.
Wow.
Couldn't even
Wow.
walk. And this was in Spain. So then I was brought into the hospital in Spain, and they said to me, "Listen, you need to be put on a drip, and you need to be fed every 2 hours, pretty much." So
Mm.
they gave me a drip. They were feeding me these sugars every 2 hours. They were giving me like a bowl of cereal, some toast, some fruit, all that kind of stuff. And I used to take it and just throw it out the window. I didn't want it. I
Mm.
didn't want it at all. Um, and I remember the doctor came in to me and said, "Listen, if you don't start looking after yourself right now, you're probably gonna be dead in 6 months' time." And that's when the
Wow.
penny that's when the penny dropped. I was like, "Holy shit, this is actually quite scary. This is really scary. I need to do something here." Um, but it took a long, long, long time for me to build up the courage to start eating again. It was very, very hard for me. That that
Mm.
rehab, that rehab of eating every couple of hours took about 2 years. About 2 years out of my life to get to where I needed to be. So when I eventually got back to some sort of normality, my family didn't want me going through that ever again. So then they got me involved in rugby. And I don't
Mm.
know if you guys know anything about rugby, but rugby is
Oh, yeah, we
basically
do.
where,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's where they incorporate discipline into your life. So they make you
Yeah,
really
yeah,
big. They make you really big,
yeah.
really strong, really intimidating. Um, so for me, going from what I used to do as an anorexia, going into something like that was a big, big thing for me.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
I had to eat a certain way. So this is where they were filling you
Yeah.
up with like lots of carbohydrates, just basically full of shit, basically. And at the
Mm.
time,
Mm.
I was a hooker at that time, and I remember my
Yeah.
coach said to me, like, "Listen, you need to put on a bit of weight. We need to make you fast, but we also need to put you. We need to make sure you're carrying a good bit amount of weight."
Yeah.
So I went in, and they taught me everything about weight training, how to lift weights,
Mm.
the importance of protein, the importance of carbohydrates, how the importance of eating around the workout was important. How you need to eat around the train and eat around the games, and the importance of
Mm.
replenishing your glycogen stores and making sure you eat a lot of carbohydrates. So I did that for. I played rugby at a good level for about 3 years. About 3 years.
Yeah.
So at the time, I would have been around 18 when I started, and it would have been around 21 when I finished, around 21, 22.
Mm,
And
mm, mm.
I got big very, very quickly because I was lifting like big compound lifts in the gym, and I was eating like 6 or 7
Yeah.
meals a day. And
Can't
I was
imagine.
eating I was eating in the excess of around maybe 3.5, maybe 4,500 calories a day.
Yeah.
And when I got to 21, 22 years of age, I was well over 240 pounds. Like I was big.
Oh
Like
my
I,
God.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was a big, big guy. So at this stage now, I was quite obese. So I'm only
Could be
five
a
now. I'm
prop.
on. Oh yeah, I was carrying a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And what was happening was I was a big guy, but was definitely
Mm.
affecting my fitness. So every time I went down the football pitch, I was breathing really,
Mm.
really, really heavy. I was depressed. I was like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling depressed when I'm actually quite big? I'm actually quite intimidating. But it was only
Yeah,
until the
yeah.
later stages I knew that the food that I was eating was having a major, major effect on me. So sorry about the rant and sorry about the
Mm.
long story, but that's kind of my
No, no,
story.
you're right. You're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, just my earpiece is starting to. I'm just adjusting the sound. It's just played up a little bit, so that's why I was
No
fiddling
worries.
around a bit here. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Mm,
that's
wow.
basically how it
I
started.
mean,
That's how it started.
so I'm just trying to get that time frame from so from when you started playing rugby and the weight that you put on after the age of 16. How many months or years was that? Because going from a skinny anorexic build all the way up to a 250 pound, whew, that's
Mhm.
a huge gain.
Yeah, no,
How long was that? How
the recovery phase from the anorexia phase took me 2 years. So I was around 16, and I would
two
have probably
years?
finished my yeah, I probably would have finished my rehab when I was around 18. Then just at
Wow.
the end, just before about 2 months before my 19th birthday, that's when I went into rugby. That's when my parents said, "Listen, okay, we're gonna make sure this never happens to you ever again. We're gonna we're gonna
Yeah.
um we're gonna incorporate some discipline here, and we're gonna build you up, and we're gonna get that confidence back." So they thought the best way to do that was, okay, he needs to go into rugby. So that's when they brought me in there, and they paid for everything. Um, and as I said, it was all about weight training. It was all about eating a certain way, and
Yeah.
as I said, I blew up. I was getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger every year. Um, but it was having a
Mm.
major, major effect on my mindset. I might, if you had looked at me back then, you might have said, okay, he looks really big. He looks very, very confident. But it was affecting my mindset, and my digestive system was unbelievably out of control. Unbelievably.
Wow. So explain that a little bit. So when you mean out of control, was it just your bowels or
Yeah.
feeling nauseous,
So
or like what were
yeah,
you feeling?
I was walking around bloated, farting every
Mm,
day. My stomach was in
mm,
bits. I had no energy. I would struggle to get
mm.
up out of bed. Um, trying to play a game for 80 minutes was a struggle for me because I was
Yeah.
carrying an awful lot of weight, a lot of weight.
Yeah.
So I would have only probably lasted maybe around 40 minutes max, and then I'd have to be taken off.
Wow.
And even like walking up the stairs would have been an effort for me. I used to struggle getting up out of bed in the morning because I used to stay in bed. I'd sleep for days. My energy was that low. So I was like, okay, this is not normal. How is this normal that I'm walking around and I'm feeling bloated. I'm feeling gassy. I feel like my depression is getting worse. My mental health is getting worse.
Mm.
Why am I feeling this at 22 years of age? Should I be feeling like
Yeah.
this at 22 years of
Mm,
age?
mm.
And I used to question my coaches and like, listen, I used to say to them like, listen, I don't feel good. Is there a reason why I don't feel good? And they used to say to me, no, you probably just need to go home and nap. They used to never talk to me about
Yeah.
nutrition.
Yep.
Um, they just said to me like, listen, you need to eat every 2 hours. That's it.
Wow.
Not non-negotiable. When you wake up in the morning, you need to have a shake. 2 hours later, you need to have a meal. The minute your
Mm.
workout's finished, you need to have a shake. So I was never allowing my body to digest the food. It was like literally every 2 hours I had to keep feeding myself. And that was the problem.
Jeez.
And that's when I realized later in my years, I was like, okay, I should have listened to my digestive system instead of bombarding my body just full of food all the time.
Mm, mm. Wow. Wow. And so from there, I guess, uh, how did you get into the sort of the low carb? Am I jumping the gun a little bit here, or was there a
No, no,
phase
you're
of?
fine. No.
Yeah.
So for me, I kind of educated myself throughout the years. So
Mm.
I was always one of those people that would be always second guessing what I'm doing. So when it came
Yeah.
to fitness, I was always one step ahead of myself or
Mm.
anybody else. So every time I ate a food, I was like, okay, I might look good, but I don't feel good. And I used to test a few things. So this is when I said, right, okay, what about if I just go low carbohydrate and just eat and start? So what I did was I switched my carbohydrates from processed carbohydrates to just like complex carbohydrates. So
Right.
I ate cleaner complex carbohydrates. So I ate like sweet potatoes, rice, quinoa, a lot of vegetables, brown pasta, brown bread. I just cleaned up my carbohydrates, and I thought that was the way. I was like, okay, if I just clean up my carbohydrates, then I'll be okay. And it did work to a certain degree, but I was still walking around bloated. And I was like, yeah, I still don't feel good here at all. So then I tested another thing. I was like, okay, let's remove the carbohydrates and let's just eat vegetables. Let's just eat vegetables and protein and nothing else. So at that stage, I remember watching Jay Cutler on
Yeah.
his bodybuilding prep. And
Yeah.
he was talking a lot about just eating white fish and
Mm.
a lot of egg whites and a lot of like steamed broccoli and cauliflower and stuff like that. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try that, and let's see what happens for 6 months.
Mm.
And I remember I got down to like 6% body fat, so I looked really really good. I was completely
Mm.
ripped, but I felt like shit. I was
Mm.
completely miserable. I was walking around, and as I said, I looked the part, but I didn't feel good at all. My stomach was bloated. Um, I was very, very gassy. I had this bubble stomach where I had to literally hold in my stomach because it just had a big major effect on me. So I was like,
Mm.
okay, I can't live like this for the rest of my life. I can't maintain this level of 6% body fat.
Yeah.
And in the back of my mind, I have these cravings. I have these unbelievable cravings. I'm craving the
Wow.
donuts. I'm craving the chocolate. I'm craving all the sweet stuff. So at this stage, I was getting really emotional about food. So when it came to the weekend, I was like, okay, like I can hear that food calling me. So
Mm.
I'm not gonna I'm not gonna allow myself get into that situation. I'm just gonna have it.
Yeah.
And then come Monday, I'd be back in that cycle again where I'd be feeling guilty about how much food I ate over the weekend. I would come Monday, I'd be like, okay, I need to eat the vegetables again. I need to eat the white fish again. I need to do the cardio. I need to do the training and get back in that train. And then come the end of the week, I repeat that cycle. I'd be like, okay, now I need to overeat. Monday, restrict, overeat, restrict, overeat, restrict. And I did that for a long time, a long time.
Mm.
And then I saw somebody I remember looking on YouTube and I saw people doing keto, where they were still eating the protein and they were still eating the vegetables. But the difference was the protein had more fat on it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they were eating like salmon, they were eating like chicken with the fat on it, steak, high fat, stuff like that. And that's when I looked into it. I was like, okay, why are they eating the fat? Because we were always brainwashed into, like, if we eat
Mm-hmm.
too many fats, there's 9 calories per gram. So if you eat too many of them, you're going to go over your calorie intake. So
Mm.
that's where I went completely wrong. So, anyways, I brought the fats in. I took away the carbohydrates, but at this stage, I was still watching my calories. So in my mind, I always had in my mind, okay, I need to only eat 1,500 calories a day. So
Mm.
that was built into my mind that you cannot go over 1,500 calories a day, regardless about how you look, regardless.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's when I ate like I was still eating 5 times a day, but I was only eating around 300 calories per meal.
Wow.
And it got to the stage where every time I finished a meal, I'd be looking forward to my next meal.
Yeah.
So I always had those cravings. I was like, okay, why am I craving? Why am I eating a meal? And automatically straight away, I'm actually looking forward to my next meal.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And then come
I
the end of
getcha.
the day, yeah, come the end of the day, you would have hit your 1,500 calories, but you were still very, very hungry.
Mm.
And that's when it took over my life. I was like, okay, listen, like that's when I start getting really emotional about food. Okay, I was like, okay, am I just the odd person out here? Why am I always craving food? Like, why am I getting
Mm.
really emotional when it comes to food? And I remember going through the darkest time in my life. This was only around. This was about 3 years ago. So it's
Mm.
not long ago. It's not long ago. I was in a really, really dark time. And I remember going for a walk. And I remember just putting on an Irish podcast. And
Mm.
I remember this guy coming on. Keto Savage, his name was Robert
Mm.
Sykes.
Mm. Yeah.
And I remember him having a conversation about carnivore. And I've never heard of carnivore ever. And I remember listening to this for 1 hour. And this guy was talking about eating nothing but just red meat and eggs and all that kind of stuff. And this guy was in incredible shape, absolutely incredible shape. And he was only eating twice a day. And I was like, and then I remember I remember when the podcast finished, I kept on saying to myself, like, there's no way you can eat just meat, get in shape, be healthy, and feel
Mm.
good about
Mm.
yourself. Like, it's just not possible. So
Yeah.
I decided to go home, do my research, and I came across so many other people: Ken Berry, Dr. Shafee, Robert Kiltz, and loads of people that were doing it. And I was like, oh my God, like it's not just one person. Like there's a lot of people that are
Mm.
actually doing it.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, right, I'm actually going to try it. I'm going to try it for 1 week. I'm just going to eat nothing but red meat. Nothing. I'm just going to eat
Mm. Mm.
steak, high fats, ground beef, lamb, and just eggs. That's all I'm going to eat. Nothing else. And within a week, my digestive issues were getting better. My mental health was getting better. I didn't lose any strength in the gym. I was losing body fat with ease. I was looking actually
Mm.
better. My health was actually getting better. And I was like, there's something in this. This is incredible. Like, why do I feel this? Why do I feel incredible after a week?
Mm.
This is
Mm.
amazing. Absolutely amazing. So then I did more research. I just kept on studying this shit every day. And I was listening to people with their transformations. And then it got to a stage where I was listening to people and they were reversing their type 2 diabetes, their PCOS, their cancer. Like
Mm.
it was getting to a stage where you're listening to people's health. It was actually getting better. And I was like,
Mm.
this is
Mm.
this is actually incredible. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm actually going to keep on researching this as much as I can, and then eventually I'm going to coach it. I'm gonna coach people into this is the way you should be eating. And I understand if you're going through the obesity route or if you're going through the under eating route, I understand because I've been there. I have been there. And that's what I'm doing at the moment.
Love
um
it.
I'm coaching at the moment. I'm coaching women, I'm coaching men, and I'm just leading them into this path because I believe that eventually everybody will eat this way eventually.
Love it. Love it. Absolutely love it. That is such a great way to also pay it forward because you said you within the first week you experienced what seems to be a life changing things
Mm.
for the better.
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and I think it's a great thing that you're doing, coaching others into this lifestyle. Good on you. How long has it been now since you've been eating this way and living this lifestyle?
So this will be 2 years now.
Two
So I did this.
years.
I did this 2 years, and
Yeah.
I haven't touched it. I honestly believed that I would miss carbohydrates, but
Mm,
I think once you get fat adapted and your energy is coming from a different source, which is a better source, which is fats,
mm,
nothing changes. You feel better.
yeah.
You feel better. You look better. The pumps in the gym don't change. And I look so much better now than I did
Nice.
in my 20s. I'm
Nice.
maintaining now I'm eating a lot of food right now. A lot of food. I have no idea what it is in calories. But I'm eating a lot of
Mm.
food. And
Yeah.
I'm maintaining the 6 pack like every year.
Nice. Nice.
You know what I mean? Like I'm eating a lot of food. I say I'm around 15-16% body fat. And I maintain this without any effort whatsoever.
Wow.
I feel great, and it's great. It's a great feeling when you
Mm.
eat a meal and you know that you're satisfied. You don't need to eat again for another 8
Mm.
hours.
Yeah. I mean, considering where you've come from and all those years of, you know, eating like shit,
Mm,
not feeling satiated, and to
mm,
finally get that feeling of, wow, this is actually a decent meal. I
mm,
feel you feel well nourished. It's
mm.
an amazing feeling. I
Yeah.
can attest to that. But um, I've never actually dived into this topic before, um, because I don't know why, but the whole emotional side of eating and how eating this way has changed that for you. Can you sort of describe that in words? Like how do you feel now with your emotional, eating?
To be honest with you, I think it's changed my life. I
Mm,
really do. As I mentioned earlier on, I used to eat like a meal, and the minute I finished
mm,
that meal, I'd be thinking about my next meal straight away.
mm,
And it literally took over my life. Like I remember when I used to be in a job, I'd have a meal and I'd be consciously thinking, okay, it's another 2 hours and then I have to eat again. But in that two
yeah,
hours, I was starving, like really
yeah.
hungry. And it was
Mm, mm,
always like that. It was always like, okay, the minute I finished that meal, I was never ever satisfied. Never.
mm, mm,
And that took over my life big time. And I think that's when I talk about the emotional part of food. That's where I always struggled, always, my whole life, when I was
mm,
anorexic and when I gained weight. That emotional around food was always there.
mm, mm. And being carnivore, I guess, how long did it take? Like you said, it obviously happened within the week that you felt much better.
Mm.
Um, has that sort of sustained? Have you had any lapses back into back into wanting to have carbohydrates or?
No, I mean,
Uh,
honestly, I'm eating a meal now, and I'm completely full, like completely full. Like I got, like my last meal was about an hour ago, and I
mm,
know I'm
mm,
going to eat now for another 6 or 7 hours because I'm extremely full. So I could walk back. I could walk past a bakery at the moment, or walk past a donut shop, or anything like that at the moment. Whereas in the
mm.
past, I would have to walk in and get something.
Yeah,
Whereas now,
yeah,
I'm in full control. I'm in
yeah.
full control of my emotions. I'm in full control of what I need to do next. Whereas in the past, I would have to keep. I would need to keep myself or keep myself busy in order for me to forget about food. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
So
Absolute sense.
yeah, so I'd be like, okay, I need to go for a walk. I need to take my mind off food. I need to go to the shop. I need to do a bit of work. I just need to do something just to keep my mind off food. Whereas now I'm just completely relaxed. I don't have that, as I said, I don't have that bad relationship around food anymore. Everything is just nice
Mm,
and completely relaxed.
wow. And what does the diet look like right now? Um, being in Ireland as well, you'd have, access to quite a fair amount of sources of beef, right? Like grass-fed stuff and
Mhm.
what does the diet look like for you right now?
So at the moment, I'm only eating about 2 or 3 meals a day, and
Mm,
I only eat when I'm hungry. So at the
mm,
moment, my diet just consists of red meat. So
mm,
I eat a lot of like ribeye. I eat a lot of ground beef. I like to eat lamb. I like to eat venison. I like to eat. I'll have chicken thighs every now and again. And that's pretty much it. Because I
mm.
because I so I suffer with a dairy allergy. It's very very hard for me
Oh, yeah.
to get fats
Mm.
in from butter. So I use cacao butter.
Right,
And
right.
It's really, really good on my stomach. Because when I was eating red meat, I was like, okay, you know the way you eat red meat and you feel like you're missing out on something. It's like, okay, I like to have
Yeah.
that at the end of it. It's like, okay, I've eaten the red meat, but is that it? Is that all I'm eating?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm one of those people that would always have a meal, and I'd always have something to look forward to after it. You know
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I need to have something to look forward to when I'm having this meal. So that's when I looked into cacao butter, and this has no dairy in it whatsoever, and it has a lot
Mm,
of stoic acid in it and a lot of good fats in it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna get it and see what happens.
mm.
And so
Yeah.
I have that, and I have beef tallow also to get my extra fats in. So that's pretty
Good.
much it. I eat a lot of red meat,
Nice.
um, and that's pretty much it. I can't eat eggs. Eggs for some reason just mess up my stomach.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair
What about
enough.
you? What about yourself?
Man, so my diet is pretty similar, but I do uh, include a bit of seafood from time to time, just because I love it. It's a non-negotiable. But maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks, I'll have some seafood.
Mhm.
I still do drink coffee, but there have been periods within the last 3 years where I have had no coffee for, let's say, a few weeks to a couple of months off
Mhm.
here and there. But that's my only non-negotiable is the coffee at this stage.
Mhm.
So I don't know if you know, but I'm a registered nurse, so I do shift work. So
Mhm.
the coffee does help,
Mhm.
with stimulus and keeping me awake in those late hours of the night. Um,
And see,
and powers.
if you were a true carnivore, there'd be an awful lot of carnivores watching this now, right now, and saying, "How dare he have coffee in his diet?"
Yeah, I know. I would need to hand in my card,
Yeah, yeah, same. Yeah,
to the carnival police.
yeah.
Um,
And
and
see,
that's something.
this is what I always say to people. I mean, at the end of the day, if it works for you, and it's that little pleasure that you have in your life, well, then I don't see any reason why you would take it out.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
You know what
Look,
I mean? Like, life is too short. Life is way too short for that.
exactly, exactly. I used to be quite. Look, I mean, I used to be when I first started off. I was the same. I was very much, oh, look, that's not carnivore. You can't have that.
Yeah,
But you kind of grow out of it. It becomes very dogmatic, and that's where I want to stay clear away from is just the dogma, because I
yeah, yeah.
love the community so much. I love how interactive people get and how supportive people get online, that I really want to not end up being a community where we're just dogmatic towards each other.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
hate that. I hate that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not a big fan of people judging other people. I think that
No,
kind of
no.
attitude that really pisses me off.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I like to learn off people. I like to speak to people. I've never been a fan of judging people. What works for you? If you're doing something and it works for you, whether you're eating carbohydrates or you're not eating carbohydrates, you will never ever
Mm,
get judged from me, ever, ever. I just don't see the
yeah.
point in it. I just don't see
No,
the
no, no.
point in someone forcing it down your throat. Oh, this is the way you should train, or this is the way you should eat. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
seriously, get a life.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you kind of just have to lead by example sometimes, because if you do you look in the far corners of some of these posts, yeah, it can get quite dogmatic. But uh, it gets to a stage where I think we just have to, you do you, whatever works for you, you
Mm,
know, so be it.
yeah, 100%,
Um,
100%.
what about the social aspect of eating this way? How has your sort of network of people around you, how do they feel about you doing this?
Well, the people that I'm coaching at the moment, they have to be led into it nice and slowly. And
Mm,
so I know you were speaking about this before we actually came on live. Where I live, the word
mm.
carnivore is seen as a sin. The word keto is seen as a sin. The minute you mention those two words,
Yeah.
people just they just go completely crazy. Oh, you shouldn't be eating like this. This is crazy.
Oh,
If
it's
you eat
like that
too
here.
much, if you eat too much fat, you're gonna die.
Mm,
All this cholesterol rubbish.
yeah.
So at the moment, we're way behind the Americans and everybody else that's going
Mm,
on in the world at the moment.
mm,
And if you look at my bio on my Instagram, I
mm.
chose not to give my name like say Carnivore Mark or
Yeah, yeah,
like that. I chose just to keep things the way they are because
yeah,
I know if I had to put carnivore on my bio, a lot of people would have just scrolled past.
yeah, yeah.
They would have said, listen, he's doing carnivore, he's trying to kill me. Why would I go and see him? Whereas
Mm,
I would rather just be a normal coach. So let's say you come on to me and you've had an addiction to carbohydrates all your life.
mm, mm,
I will take you on, but what I will do is I will educate you out of those carbohydrates eventually.
mm, mm.
You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
the way I do my coaching at the moment. I take
Mm,
people on and I'm like, okay, you have an addiction to carbohydrates, but I'm not going to turn around and
mm,
say to you, okay, listen, Joff, I want you off carbohydrates. You're not eating
mm.
any more carbohydrates anymore.
Yeah,
If I said that to you at the very, very beginning, you're going to say to me, listen, this guy is crazy, crazy.
yeah,
He doesn't
yeah.
know what he's talking about. But the more I work with you on a week to week basis, and then you get to understand, like I did and like you did, that over
Mm,
the years you get the digestive issues,
mm,
you get the depression, all these
mm,
things that go on in your life, and you're like, okay, there's a reason why these issues are happening. And the
mm.
more you educate people and guide them in the right direction, eventually they're like, okay, now I know the reason why I need to replace those carbohydrates with fats. Now I understand.
Exactly. Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
you cannot do unless you meet somebody that knows about carnivore and knows about keto, you can jump straight into it. But for 90% of the people that are probably watching this or around the world, a
Mm,
lot of them are eating carbohydrates. And
absolutely. Yeah.
a lot of them have this mindset around fats, unfortunately. And it's up
Mm,
to us as coaches to educate these people in the right way.
I love it. I love it. Um, and it's about giving them the power to do so as well, and not forcing it upon them,
Yeah,
but allowing them to, you said it right. You lead them into the lifestyle rather than being forceful about it.
yeah,
And that's something that I also do with my clients as well. It's not about what I want. I mean, yes, I do have it in my obviously in my Instagram handle. I've got the word carnivore there, but that's to me that's representative of me and
mhm,
how proud I am of
yeah,
this way of eating.
yeah.
And so I do hope that Ireland does catch up. It sounds like it will get there. Yeah.
I think it will because I have a good amount of clients at the moment, and
Mm.
I'd say about 95% of them now are very, very close to carnivore, extremely close.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
when I look at that 95%, I'm like, okay, these people are making a difference. Hopefully, they'll tell their friends and they'll tell
yeah.
their friends. It'll just spread,
It
you
just
know?
spread. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's how it
Because
starts. Yeah.
I don't I don't like to force like I don't like to force myself upon people. Like when we go back to the judgments part again. So when I'm doing my posts in the morning, or if I'm doing an Instagram video, I'll never
Mm,
mention I'll never mention the word carnivore. I'll never mention the word keto. I'll explain to people the reason why this is happening. And
mm.
instead of looking at this option, there's always a different option over this side.
Yeah, yeah,
You know that kind of way. Instead of going down the route of calories and training
yeah, yeah,
all this bullshit. I'm like, okay, you're listening to that all the time. Every time you look on social media, that's what you see. But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
don't be afraid. The people over here, the likes of Joff, Mark, all the people in the community, all the people in the carnivore community, we're not
Mm.
crazy. We're just giving you something to think about. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all it
Good
is.
words. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Um, so let's talk about a bit of your coaching. So you know, how's it been? How's it been helping others? And seeing people's transformations and being a part of that as well. Because I've got
Uh,
my stories as well. So,
I have to
yeah.
say it's absolutely amazing. It's amazing
Mm,
because I've been doing fitness now for a long time. I've been doing
mm,
fitness now since I was 21. So I know a good bit about fitness and I know how to get people in shape. So
mm,
I was never worried about that aspect of my training and my coaching. But since I've learned about carnivore, I've learned that it's not just about getting in shape. It's about
mm.
improving people. It's about improving people's health.
Yep, yep.
And watching somebody's health before your very eyes get better, their conditions get better, is just incredible. Like when you
Yeah.
like I don't like when you get messages back off people saying that you've saved my life. I've done everything. I was
Mm,
always one of those people that are going through menopause, perimenopause. I could never lose the weight. When you hear these people coming back to you and saying, "Listen, I thought I was a failure. I thought I could never
mm,
lose," and you take these people on, and within months, they're losing the
mm,
weight. Their health has
mm,
improved. All the inflammation is gone. All
mm,
all the all the injuries are gone. All the pain is gone. It's just incredible. It really
mm,
it makes my job at times very emotional because
mm,
when you're talking to these people, I've had people on check-ins literally
mm,
literally crying in front of me.
mm,
That's how much it means to them.
mm, mm,
Like these are people that are going to the doctors to get their labs done, and then when they go to the doctors are saying, "Listen, there's nothing wrong with you. You're fine.
mm,
There's nothing wrong
mm,
with you." And then you walk out of hospital and you know there's something wrong with you, but the people in the healthcare, they're not giving you the help that you need.
mm, mm,
They're not giving you the help that you need at all. And that's where I come in. That's when I
mm.
say, okay, listen, you need to speak to somebody that knows what they're talking about.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
and then when I take these people on, and then again give them the education that they need, following their journey, and then they're coming back to me and saying, "Mark, I was taking like 20 pills a day. Now I'm not taking any more medication. No more medication." That just fills me with so much joy.
Mm,
It really, really does. It just fills
mm,
me with
mm,
so much joy that you're taking this pain away from people and you're
mm.
making them live the life they should be living.
Yeah, absolutely. I resonate with that so much. Um, I've been a nurse for over a decade, and I love doing what I do. But I said this in another interview I did with a video that I'm putting out. You know, uh, people consider your frontline workers to be the nurses, the doctors, the yeah, the people who are providing care for these patients that come in. I no longer see that as the front lines of healthcare because I think healthcare should actually start at home,
Yeah.
in the kitchen,
Yeah.
what they do, what they do at
Yeah.
home. It doesn't start with you ending up in hospital or you ending up in a clinic. It starts at home. And what better way to do that than by coaching, right? Like you are coaching someone and guiding someone through making those lifestyle changes at home.
Yeah.
And yeah, you mentioned all the things that you see people just light up and glow, but have you ever noticed as well the change in what your clients' demeanor from when they first started to when they complete a program, just the change in how they view things
Oh
and
yeah.
how they communicate
Yeah.
with you.
Yeah. You can
It's
see the
like,
difference. Yeah, you can see the difference in energy. You can just see this aura. You can just see
yeah,
this
yeah,
you can just see this attitude. It's like
yeah,
I don't just look good now. I
yeah,
feel
yeah,
incredible. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But
yeah,
amazing listening to you, Jock, because you have seen both sides of this. Like
Yeah.
I've never worked in a hospital,
Yeah.
and you have. And when we look
Mm,
at what happened a few years ago, like the Big C, um,
mm, mm,
like you guys would have seen it all, like in the
mm,
hospital. And I remember back then, I don't know about you, but I remember back then I was like, why are we locking people up? Why are we putting people at home watching Netflix, allowing them
mm,
to drink alcohol, allowing them to eat fast food, but we're not allowing these people to exercise?
mm, mm,
You know
mm.
what I mean? It's amazing. It's amazing listening to someone like you that is in the health sector and can already see the holes. You can already see that. Listen, okay, these people are qualified to give you the medication, to give you the
Mm, mm.
injection, but when it comes to your overall health, and I believe that most diseases that are going on in this world at the moment is down to nutrition. That's just my personal
Yeah.
belief.
Yep. Yep. 100%. I agree.
I just that's just my personal belief. A lot of people might look at me
Yeah.
and say, "Listen, how can you talk about like Alzheimer's or dementia or
Mm,
cancer
mm,
or all of these diseases and say that this is all down to food?" It's just my opinion. I just
mm.
firmly believe that most diseases that we're currently going through at the moment is down to what we put into our body.
Exactly. Exactly. And you know what? Um, I totally agree with you on that. It plays a huge part in however the disease manifests itself, whether it's type 2 diabetes, whether it's dementia, Alzheimer's, whether it's cancer. um there's a huge correlation between what you eat and those disease outcomes. But I also want to say this, just from my obviously insights as a healthcare worker in the space that I'm in, or in sort of my area. People are opening up to this idea about low carb carnivore, which is great. Um, Actually, a lot of the people that I've spoken to and that I know in real life who have actually done keto or carnivore are healthcare workers. Actually,
Good,
all of them are healthcare workers.
good, good, yeah, good,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, yeah, so it's bittersweet at the same time. Um, you see the the harsh effects of disease. Like, let's just narrow it down to one: diabetes. Like, people obviously know what diabetes is. They know how, yeah, how it's sort of diagnosed. They know it's to do with high sugars, but you don't see the effects of that until you've seen a patient have their life turned around because of it. Their legs amputated,
yeah.
not being
It's
able
great,
to care for themselves, not
great.
being able to go home, ending up in hospital and having to find out that actually at the end of this, I'm not going to be able to live in my own home because of this disease
Mm,
that has taken my life away. Like, I've had to see that for over a decade. And it makes it hard, obviously, knowing what I know and learning what I've learned about carbohydrates. Because the status quo is still carbs are essential. You need to have carbs in your diet. I That's not a, that message is not gonna go away anytime soon. I don't think.
mm,
Uh, but and this is where I get to the sweet part of it, is that um, I am seeing a lot of change, not just in social media, but in my social networks. I can see people are getting involved and really um, transforming.
mm,
And that they don't have to be my clients. Like, I'm seeing people, people just send me messages and telling me that, hey, look, I tried this carnivore thing that you're doing, and I'm losing weight. I'm feeling much better, much healthier than I was, and that puts a smile on my face as well.
mm.
So
And see,
Mm.
when you hear people saying that they're losing weight, the majority of people that are looking at that, they will say, yeah, you're losing weight because you've removed the carbohydrates. So
Calories, yeah.
you're just losing water. And it's like the minute you add
Mm-hmm.
carbohydrates back in, you're gonna gain the water back. And it's like, well, that's the whole fucking point. You're not supposed to
Yeah,
gain water. You're not supposed to
yeah,
be
yeah.
walking. You're not supposed to be walking around with excess water in your body. You're not supposed to be walking around in flames. Like this makes more sense. It's like, what's the point if you're walking around with excess? Like, do you know what really wrecks my? I'll give you something to laugh about. This is what really
Yeah.
wrecks my head in the gym, right? This really wrecks my head. So you'll see all these younger people, like the younger girls and the boys, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll go into the gym with these energy drinks and Lucozade and stuff like
Yep.
that. And
Yeah, yeah.
they'll do the weight training, and they're like, oh yeah, I feel
Mm.
strong. I'm building muscle. All this sugar in my body. I'm feeling good. I'm getting a good pump. And then they'll go over to the cardio machine. They'll do 20
Mm.
minutes on the elliptical, Stairmaster. They're,
Yep. Yep.
they're sweating out all these sugars. But what are they drinking in between this cardio?
Oh yeah, they're gonna go straight to the bubbler water
So,
machine. Yep.
yeah, they're losing all this. They're losing all this water,
Mm.
but
Mm.
every 5 minutes they're filling themselves back up with sugar. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my god, wow! It's just like, what is the reason for this? What is the reason for
Yeah.
this? And then you and
Yeah.
then you look and then you look at the training sessions. And first of all, they're not intense. Like, I watch a lot of people's training, a lot of people's
Yeah.
training.
Yeah.
Unless you're training really intense, like what Dorian Yates used to do in the past. He
Yeah.
used
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
train really hard. His body could probably get away with a little bit of carbohydrate before training because
Yeah.
of the intensity that he's training. But the way I see people training these days, they're doing a set, they're looking at their phone, they're doing a set, they're looking at their phone. It's like, you don't realize, but you're actually doing more damage by you drinking Lucozade between your sets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doing this
Yeah.
day, and then they're getting frustrated because they're going to the gym every day, they're in a calorie deficit, they're doing the cardio, and they're like,
Yeah.
I still don't look the same. I
Yeah.
still look like I still look like shit. I still feel like
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just crazy.
That's the other thing, Mark, and that's another. You've hit another nerve there, because apart from life, I actually, I've been training for pretty much a whole decade as well. I've been training hard. I pushed myself to train, and yeah, the results of it was, at the end of the day, for what? I spent the hours at the gym. I'd spend about 2-3 hours at the gym, 4 or 5 days a week, feeling like shit, feeling like crap. you know um nothing would work. I mean, let's face, like, there will be some periods of time where you'd get the results that you'd want, but how long for?
Mm,
Couple of weeks, couple of months,
mm,
and then something would happen. Oh, I've went on holidays, or I caught a nasty bug, and bam goes the gains, the things that you've worked hard for, and you're back to square one, and you're just chasing yourself. And
mm.
so, yeah, I said this in a video that I made. The whole fitness industry has built this culture of, you need to push yourself, and just work hard, train hard to get the results that you want. Nothing to
And
do with
see,
your diet.
yeah, and see, this is the biggest thing. Like, my audience is primarily women, and this is the
Mm,
biggest thing I have to explain to women when I take women on
mm,
cortisol. And this is
mm.
the biggest thing I have to talk about women, because, like you mentioned, all these women are brainwashed into thinking, I need to push my body to the extreme when I go
Yeah.
to the gym.
Mm,
I need to do
mm,
this. I need to look at my watch, and I need to try and
mm,
burn calories. That kind
mm.
of mind. When I'm in the
Yeah.
gym, I need to do an hour on the treadmill. I need to do an hour on the weight training, and then I probably need to do it half an hour on the sauna. This is just elevating your cortisol.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
increasing stress levels. Now, what happens is at this stage, when your body goes
Mm.
through that amount of stress, okay, that has a huge impact on blood sugar. Huge impact.
Yeah. Yep.
And this is why most people overeat. They're like
Yeah.
and this comes down to poor sleep. If your sleep is
Mm.
shit, that's going to elevate poor blood sugar. If you're doing too
Mm.
much in the gym, that's going to elevate blood sugar. If your diet is
Mm.
shit, that's going to elevate blood sugar. So what all this is doing? This is just going to cause more stress. And
Exactly.
I've seen so many women where when you look at them, they look they look thin, but the minute they take their top off, they still have that
Yeah.
belly.
Yeah.
That's where
Yeah.
all the stress is, and
Yeah.
they are doing everything to try and lose that belly, calorie
Yeah. Yeah.
deficit, the cardio, everything, but they can't lose it.
Mm.
They can't lose it.
Mm.
And then when I say to them, I say, listen, okay, first of all, we're not doing any more. We're not doing any more cardio. You're just gonna
Mm.
walk every. You're only gonna do like 40 minutes for me in the gym 3 times a
Yeah.
week. These
Mm.
people are looking at you and saying, you're crazy. You're absolutely
Yeah.
crazy. Like, why do
Yeah.
you want me to train 3 times a week? I thought I need to do more if I want to
Yeah.
look
Yeah.
good. Where it's the
Yeah. Yeah.
opposite. You need to take a step back and just focus on building muscle. That's it.
Yeah.
And when it comes to fat loss, let your diet do that for you. That's it. Don't
Yeah.
overcomplicate.
Yeah. Yep. Don't overcomplicate it. Yeah.
It's
And
very,
you'll realize that
yeah, it's that simple.
it's that simple, right? And you'll realize too that hey, there's actually more to life than spending time hours and hours in the gym. Like,
Absolutely.
hey, you've got more time to yourself in your day to do whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah. And that's
Like,
you made a very, very good point there. Like, it has to come down to you. Like, if you've got a really, really busy lifestyle, like you're working on a building like 12 hours a day, or
mm,
you're like yourself working in a hospital where you're probably working long hours, or you're probably one of those people that are sitting at a desk all day. You
yeah.
have to understand that's a stressful situation.
Oh yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
if you're going from one stressful situation into another stressful situation, that's actually going to hold you back. You're not
Mm,
actually going to
mm,
make the results that you want very, very quickly. So you need to
mm,
readapt. You need to readapt things and say, well, listen, hang on a second. Okay, my body is not ready to go to the gym. So maybe I need to listen
mm,
to maybe I need to take a day off and just
mm.
feed me and go to the gym when I feel like I'm 100%. Instead of listening to these fitness influencers tell you that
Yeah.
you need to go to the gym every day. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if you're feeling like shit. Go to the gym. No,
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way. It does not work that way with
No.
hormones. It's a simple.
No. No. Absolutely. You've nailed that one. That was really good. Um. Well. Mark. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
No, I
Anything
think
else you
that,
wanted to cover?
that
Hey, man. So we've reached the hour mark here. Um. Let's leave with some final words for people. Now, I always like to say, for people who are watching, who are on the fence and wanting to get started in making a lifestyle change, like going keto or carnivore, have you got any words for them that you want to, pass on?
the only thing I would say to these people that have any doubts is just try it.
Mm,
Just try it. Just try it for a week or two. Just give it a go. And if you
mm,
come back and feel great, it's not a one trick pony. Trust me on this. You're
mm,
feeling great for a reason. Now, if you're feeling great for a reason, why would you go back to your old habits?
exactly. Mm,
It's that simple. Just you shouldn't you should never be in a situation where you're feeling that you're waking up every day and you're in pain. You should never be in
mm,
a situation where you're relying on medication for the rest of your life. You should never be in a situation where you're focusing on weight loss for the rest of your life. trust me, there are other ways. And if you are going through
Mm,
that at the moment, all I'm asking you guys to do is just try it. Just give it a try, 1 or 2 weeks, and let me know how you get on.
mm. That's perfect. That's perfect. Mark, I want to thank you so much for having this discussion with me. Tell people your social medias. Well, where can people reach out to you, and how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, okay, so if people want to see what I do, you can look at me on Instagram. That's where I'm mostly active. And you'll find me at Fitness Beyond Time 01.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay.